All right, and then for game 2, the second half of our ESPN doubleheader tonight, it's the Lakers and the Clippers, Battle of Los Angeles. We'll start with the Clippers, who have been playing really good defense during their 6-5 start, ranking 4th in the league in defensive efficiency. That's points per 100 possessions. Also 5th in opponents' field goal percentage. That defense certainly matters. That's bad news for a Lakers offense that has struggled, to say the least. LA ranks last in the league in offensive efficiency and three-point percentage, shooting just 29% from beyond the arc this season. That is one reason they're 2-8 to start the season. 4th time in franchise history they've been 2-8 or worse 10 games in. That's despite leading or being tied at halftime in more than half of their games. So they're having trouble hanging on to the leads as well, as we welcome in our Lakers reporter, Dave McMenamin. And Dave, LeBron is listed as probable tonight with that left foot, but we all know it's going to take a lot more than LeBron James to turn this thing around. I know you spoke to Anthony Davis recently. What is his vision for how they can begin to improve?
Sage, in Salt Lake City on Monday, I asked Anthony about the success he previously had defensively in the Lakers lineup. And he told me that I was able to play more of a roamer role. And through that role, he was able to not only protect the rim, but be out in the perimeter. And the way he was able to do that is to have a center behind him. Now, this is a conversation that we've had in training camp and preseason. Would Anthony Davis play the 4 or play the 5? Well, Darvin Ham told me after the game on Monday that Damian Jones getting a look at center and having 10 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks off the bench will be something that perhaps they have to continue to look at, because right now what they've been doing isn't working at 2-8. And so Anthony Davis could get his wish, maybe not necessarily in the starting lineup, but more minutes with Damian Jones at the 5, Anthony Davis at the 4, as a method potentially to unlock all of his defensive ability.
You know what? They've got nothing to lose. Darvin Ham, first-year head coach. I mean, what a tall task, but just tinker away at this point, right? 2-8 start. We'll see. A lot of basketball left to be played, but still, why not try new things here?
Removed Jacques Vaughn's interim title, named him head coach. This comes a week after Steve Nash and the team parted ways. And sources tell our agent Wojnarowski that the deal runs through the 23-24 season. The team had been expected to hire suspended Celtics coach Ime Udoka, but chose to promote Vaughn as the team deals with fallout from Kyrie Irving and other issues that have gone on in this organization, including underperforming, as we welcome in our Nets reporter, Nick Friedel. And Nick, we were literally sitting here right around this time, right now, a week ago, when we were expecting all this to go down with Ime Udoka. Steve Nash was fired. Now we've arrived at the Jacques Vaughn tenure. How did we get here?
Matt, the big key is that it seems like Joe Tsai was listening to people within the league office, and he was listening to people in his own organization going, what the hell are you thinking right now on Udoka? Because a week ago, people all over the league, people in the Nets organization thought that was done. Woj reported it. 24 to 48 hours, it's going to happen. With all the stuff going on with Kyrie Irving, with all the baggage hanging around Udoka with the suspension he's dealing with the Celtics, there were plenty of voices that came in and said, Joe, I don't think this is the move right now. And Jacques Vaughn is well respected internally. He's a calming voice for the players. He's known a few of those guys a long time. This made sense given the other circumstances surrounding the Nets. But as far as Udoka goes, it is a surprise because there were a lot of people that thought that thing was a done deal with him coming to Brooklyn.
Yeah, it almost seemed as if it was signed, sealed, and delivered, minus it being signed, sealed, and announced. So now it's Jacques Vaughn's team. The tonight marks the first time the Nets have played at home since Kyrie's suspension. I don't want to get too much into that road trip because you said something interesting there that Jacques Vaughn has the respect of these players. What has the vibe been like with this team, not only on the road, but since Jacques has taken over?
Matt, it's been good. And you and I have had a lot of conversations about the Nets in the last year, even in the last couple of weeks, where it's been really bad. And that's not to pin everything on Kyrie or everything on Nash and the Nets parting ways. But Vaughn has been in the league. He's been around these guys. He has been an assistant coach for 7 years. They know him. They trust him. And that in the moment is important. Joe Harris was just talking about it at shoot-around a couple hours ago. We trust the game plan that Jacques puts in place, and we know we're going to be prepared to do what we need to do. Now, is he the long-term guy for the next few years? Only time will tell. But, Matt, in the last few days on that road trip, in the last couple hours at shoot-around, I've been seeing the same thing from a lot of Nets players and personnel as they walk through the building and onto the floor, and that's a smile. There is actual belief that they can focus on basketball, and we'll see what happens with Kyrie over the next week or two and that whole situation. But the game itself has been a good thing for the Nets. They want to focus on how they can win games instead of focusing on all the other stuff that has been overwhelming this organization.
Yeah, this thing was tailor-made for Bravo or MTV, not ESPN. And now that we're playing hoops again, Nets going for their third win under new head coach Jacques Vaughn tonight. You can see it on ESPN, 7:30 right here.
Long about the Brooklyn Nets and the drama going on there, but right now we have more news to bring you. Let's bring in our insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, with the latest on the breaking news out of Brooklyn. What is it, Woj?
Yeah, Sage, the Brooklyn Nets are going to keep Jacques Vaughn as their head coach, taking away that interim label and putting him in charge now, certainly for the foreseeable future, the rest of the season. And listen, this was an organization who last week, when they made the change with Steve Nash, I think there was a lot of momentum toward Ime Udoka as their next head coach. But I think Vaughn has stabilized this team, won a couple of back-to-back games on the road, played well in a loss to Dallas, and now they've got New York tonight in Barclays against the Knicks. I think for the Nets, there's a comfort level with Jacques Vaughn. He was their head coach in the bubble after Kenny Atkinson was let go as coach. And I think right now they see a stabilizing presence in Vaughn. And I think there's no question with Ime Udoka and certainly some of the backlash that would have come with his hiring. I think Udoka is going to be a head coach again in this NBA, perhaps as soon as this off season. But I think the timing for Udoka and the Nets, just think it didn't match up with all that was going on. And I think Brooklyn feels with Jacques Vaughn, they've got a coach who they believe has a respect of their players and has stabilized the team that was somewhat in free fall when he took over last week.
Okay, two questions. I'm going to start with the one first and foremost, Woj, on Ime Udoka, because it seemed just a week ago that this was all but a done deal. Do you mean now with today's news that is completely off the table for the future as well?
Well, listen, down the road, who knows? But they've made Jacques Vaughn in Brooklyn their head coach, taking the interim label off. So yes, Jacques Vaughn's going to be the coach of this team moving forward, no longer acting/interim head coach. And I think so much of the Kyrie Irving situation that really certainly took over the franchise last week, put them in a position where they had to deal with that situation, which they finally did with a suspension on Thursday, and then they turned their attention back to this coaching search. And I know the Nets talked to some other candidates out there. This is a very difficult time of the year to bring in a coach from the outside, and I think for the Nets, another coaching change would have made for a third head coach this season. They're going to stay with Jacques Vaughn now as they try to get this team righted and into the playoff conversation in the East.
And once again, Jacques Vaughn had been with the organization for a few years and was an NBA head coach 2015, 2016 down in Orlando with the Magic as well. So that's Adrian Wojnarowski with the breaking news that Jacques Vaughn, they're removing the interim tag. He is the Nets head coach. One final question here, Woj. Again, is that just for the rest of this season? Is there anything more you can tell us about the contract, I assume, that is going on right now with them?
I don't have details of what that contract is right now, Sage.
Okay, I know that you'll keep us up to date with the breaking news that Jacques Vaughn is the official head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Woj, thank you for joining us. Let's bring in our NBA analyst, Monica McNutt. And Monica, we had some Nets news to talk about. We'll get to that in a second. But first things first, your reaction to the news that Jacques Vaughn is staying on as head coach.
Literally, Sage? Oh, really? Okay, that makes sense. I think what Woj said that is the key is looking to stabilize. There's no secret that this Nets organization has been in the headlines for a plethora of reasons. And so I just think the influx, even though there's connections to Ime Udoka and some of the guys that are currently on this roster, I mean, you have questions about the staff behind just the head coach. And so I think Jacques now has the opportunity to stabilize this organization a bit moving forward. And they played pretty well in 2 games that he's been at the helm.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The players know him. There is a trust factor there. And at this point, the stabilization has got to be the key factor, the focus for everybody. Forget about postseason. Let's fix where we are today. From what you have seen, how has Jacques Vaughn been able to do that in just 4 games?
Well, one, and I don't know if it's just Jacques or it is kind of the culmination of just all that's going on. This is a team that truly, when you talk to these guys, they want to play basketball. Kevin Durant, he sometimes gets joked on, but he's truly a hooper and wants the opportunity to play basketball. The same of Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Nick Claxton, and that entire roster. And so the opportunity to now streamline, right, and to have a voice. If you pull up to a Nets shoot around, you'll see Jacques Vaughn getting a sweat in sometimes with guys on the floor. Having a coach that's still willing to get out on the floor and work with guys goes a long way in terms of credibility and voice. And so I think he's just been able to simplify a little bit. He's been able to encourage these guys to play defense and play as a unit a little bit. Now, they've got a long way to go, but I just think it's literally one step at a time, and the continuity is going to be huge.
Absolutely. So maybe just a sigh of relief for Jacques Vaughn and everybody in the organization as well, knowing that he is our guy for the foreseeable future, as Woj said. So he's also got a plan at this point for no Kyrie Irving out for the foreseeable future until that situation gets resolved. So with that said, what should the biggest focus be for this Brooklyn team?
You know, Sage, I'm of the mindset that this squad needs to commit on the defensive end, quite honestly.
Yeah.
They have talent offensively. You look at Cam out of LSU, he has the ability to play that point guard spot in Kyrie's stead. Is he Kyrie? No. But you've got a guy like Kevin Durant. If Ben Simmons can look at the basket and make himself viable, he's still willing to defend. But if Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton are the only people interested in playing defense, eventually that's going to catch up with you and you're not going to be able to put W's in the win column. But to me, again, if you can find some continuity, you got 2 terrific shooters in Harris and Curry. You've got Kevin Durant, who is still one of the greatest to play this game of basketball. The continuity will provide itself on the offensive end, but this team has to commit on the defensive side of the ball, and they could use a little extra size on their roster.
Okay, first things first, a game tonight in the Battle of the Big Apple as the Nets host the Knicks. It's a 7:30 tip at Barclays. By the way, our reporter for the Nets, Nick Friedel, was at shoot-around this morning, and he will join us at the top of the hour for the latest on the breaking news that Jacques Vaughn is the interim, no longer the interim head coach of the Nets. He is there for the foreseeable future. Monica McNutt, thank you for your reaction.
Golf news just into SportsCenter. Tiger Woods is returning to play in the Hero World Challenge next month in the Bahamas. The event, which Tiger founded with his father Earl back in 1999, it's got a star-studded field. Scottie Scheffler, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, and many others from the top 20. Tiger missed the cut at the British Open. He's not competed since. Remember that walk around St. Andrews coming back from the car accident? A remarkable scene it was. Tiger played only 3 official PGA Tour events last year. They were all majors. Made the cut of the Masters, shot 12 over in his final 2 rounds. Withdrew after making the cut of the PGA Championship, just couldn't walk. It was just too much on that injured leg.